421 The crack in the boundary. Teacher, where should we go? Feng Xian looked at Yizan and asked in a soft voice. At this moment, Su Tiansheng, who was beside him, stood up. Chief Yizan, if you don't mind, you can stay at my Su family's residence for a few days. I will definitely host you well. I appreciate Master Su's good intentions, but I brought my disciples out to gain experience in preparation for the sect's 7 Peaks competition, and it's almost time to go back. After he finished speaking, he turned to look at Su Chang. Young Master Su, I'm quite satisfied with your performance today. It seems that what you said that day is somewhat credible. Cough, cough. How would I dare to lie to Chief Yizan? In all of Qingyang City, I am one of the most filial sons, and the role model of filial piety. Su Chang spoke these words in a serious tone, but he could not help but secretly wipe the sweat off his forehead. Hearing this, Yizan laughed inwardly. Well done then. Remember to keep it up in the future. All right, let's go. After Yizan spoke to Su Chang, he led Feng Xian and Zhu Yuyu in the direction of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. Originally, Exener had also planned to follow them. However, Feng Xian told her that she was free to live her own life now that Feng Xian had Yizan as her teacher. Exener was very grateful. However, she had accompanied Feng Xian since she was young, and could be said to be as close as sisters. How could she bear to part with her? After some thought, Feng Xian promised her that whenever she missed her, she could come to Cloud Sky Peak to visit at any time. Only after hearing this did Exener agree to leave. Father, what are you thinking about? After Yizan and the others left, Su Tiansheng stood in place with a dazed look on his face. He touched his chin and began to think. Su Chang was curious when he saw this. Su Tiansheng looked in the direction that Yizan had left and sighed deeply, his eyes full of admiration. Chief Yizan is so young, yet his strength is already so terrifying. He can be said to be a peerless expert of this generation. With his own power, he easily crushed 3 elders from the immortal divine sect. Furthermore, he did not use any artifacts. His attainments in the Sword Dao have already reached an extremely terrifying level. Even now, I still have a lingering fear of that overbearing sword chi. Even his disciples are extremely talented. Their future achievements are limitless. It seems that we have made the right choice in choosing to protect them. After saying all this, Su Tiansheng turned around and his eyes fell on Su Chang. My dear son, you've done well this time. If it weren't for you protecting Chief Yizan's 2 disciples, the Su family wouldn't have been able to gain the recognition of Cloud Sky Peak so easily. In the future, even if the Su family is handed over to you to manage, I can rest at ease. Hearing Su Tiansheng's sincere and earnest words, Su Chang was choked up with emotion. Ever since he was young, he had always been a wastrel and hedonistic son in his father's eyes. He had never received such positive recognition. Thankfully, he had learned his lesson. Furthermore, compared to that brainless son of the Lin family, he was far too outstanding. At this moment, Lin Dahai, who was next to him, said, Master, I'm sure all of the major families in Qingyang City now know that we're on Cloud Sky Peak's side after this. Do you think we should do something? Elder Lin's words are reasonable. Then, we'll add 10,000 taels of profound gold on top of the gifts we prepared earlier, and build a palace on Cloud Sky Peak for Chief Yizan. Our Su family is a big family and can easily afford this, Su Tiansheng said generously. Then, he looked at the disheveled Lin Yuming with a smug expression and left while humming a happy tune. After a few hours, the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, Cloud Sky Peak. A streak of light flickered, and the figures of Yizan, Feng Xian, and Zhu Yuyu appeared. Is this Cloud Sky Peak? Feng Xian was stunned as she looked at the clouds in front of her and the red-crowned cranes that were constantly flying past the surrounding mountain peaks. Clouds and mist swirled around. This was truly a paradise on earth. In addition, the spiritual energy on the mountain peak was extremely abundant. There was also a natural waterfall on the mountain peak, which was simply too beautiful. Yuyu, take Xian around on a tour of Cloud Sky Peak. Oh right, tell her about the Great Wilderness Divine Sect as well. That's all for today. You can rest after that. Yes, teacher. Zhu Yuyu nodded her head respectfully and left with Feng Xian. Yizan immediately returned to his room, took out a beast bone covered in mysterious runes from his storage ring and began to study it. This bone contained a strange dark power, which was extremely corrosive to all living things. Is this the strange power that's been causing the problem with the berserk beasts? Yizan looked at the beast bone in his hand and fell into a state of deep thought. This was something he had picked up in an extremely obscure place after entering the depths of the archaic divine mountains. The strange power contained in this beast bone was very similar to the power in the previous berserk beasts, except much stronger. Yi Zan guessed that the bodies of those which were infected earlier contained more of this strange power. After entering the depths of the archaic divine mountain, Yi Zan also discovered that a tiny crack had actually appeared in the boundary of the east continent. The strange power seemed to flow in from beyond the crack. Fortunately, so far, only beasts had been infected by this strange power, and no cultivators had exhibited similar symptoms. However, Yi Zan had an ominous feeling in his heart. There seemed to be some secret and conspiracy behind this. After learning that there was a crack in the boundary of the east continent, Yi Zan studied it carefully for a while and left after he found nothing. Along the way, Yi Zan also accidentally discovered an ancient tomb that had been sealed for a long time. Unfortunately, he was not the only one who discovered this ancient tomb. The reason why Mu Baiken and the others had come to Qingyang City was most likely because of this ancient tomb in the archaic divine mountains. Incidentally, the seal of the ancient tomb was extremely strong and would not open on its own for a short period of time. Therefore, Yi Zan returned. He planned to explore the ancient tomb after the 7 Peaks competition. 422 Zhuge Yueyu's strength. What a headache. I can't be bothered to study this thing right now. I'm lacking too much information. Yi Zan put away the beast bone and lay down on the bed. In the morning, Yi Zan opened his eyes in a daze. After washing up, he pushed the door open and walked out. Are those 2 girls still lazing around in bed? As soon as Yi Zan walked out of his room, he noticed that the door to the room next to his was still closed. He thought that Feng Xian and Zhuge Yueyu were still in bed. Suddenly, he looked up at the mountain peak when he sensed 2 surging auras. Not bad. They're quite diligent. Seeing this, Yi Zan could not help but smile. Feng Xian and Zhuge Yu had already woken up, and were on the mountain peak cultivating. Yi Zan did not disturb them. Instead, he returned to his room and began to cultivate. Feng Xian and Zhuge Yu only returned when the sun was high in the sky. Teacher, we've returned from our morning cultivation, Feng Xian said happily as soon as she entered the courtyard. Today, not only did she wake up early to cultivate with Zhuge Yueyu, but they also toured the beautiful scenery of Cloud Sky Peak in their spare time. This was completely different from her days in the palace. It was a carefree life that she had never had before. She could truly let herself go and follow his heart. In just a day, Feng Xian had completely adapted to life on Cloud Sky Peak. She felt extremely warm at heart. Here, there was a teacher who loved her dearly and also a considerate senior sister. Feng Xian's heart was filled with happiness. When Yi Zan, who was cultivating, heard this, his tightly shut eyes slowly opened. A bright divine light flashed across the depths of his pupils. Then, his gaze fell on Feng Xian, and his face revealed a satisfied expression. It was indeed a good habit to cultivate diligently. Xian, have you been able to adapt to life on Cloud Sky Peak? Master, I feel that life on Cloud Sky Peak is great. It already feels like the home I never had. I feel very happy. That's good. Cloud Sky Peak is different from the other peaks. We don't have complicated rules. As long as you don't break the rules of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, you can do whatever you want, Yi Zan said with a smile, and then he ended his cultivation session. The 7 Peaks competition is coming, and the 2 of you will be representing Cloud Sky Peak in the competition. Every 7 Peaks competition is of great significance to the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. It is the time when the strength of our peaks are compared. Since I'm free today, I'll check the results of your training. Yueyu, you're the first disciple of Cloud Sky Peak, so you can go first. Yes, teacher. Zhuge Yueyu stood up and followed Yi Zan to a bamboo forest on the mountain peak. Feng Xian watched from the side with a curious expression. Zhuge Yueyu slowly raised the Cloud Sky sword in her hand. The pressure in her heart increased. If she was facing other cultivators of the same level, Zhuge Yueyu had absolute confidence that she could defeat them. However, the one standing in front of her was her teacher, an extremely powerful mystic Lord Realm expert. At this moment, Zhuge Yueyu was a little nervous. Zhuge Yueyu closed her eyes tightly and took a deep breath, slowly calming herself down. Teacher is testing my strength. I have to use 120% of my combat strength. Let's begin. You can use any technique. Teacher, I'm going to attack. As soon as she finished speaking, the Cloud Sky sword in Zhuge Yueyu's hand unleashed sharp sword chi, and then she used a powerful divine power and slashed the sword toward Yi Zan. The sword chi was extremely sharp, and the surrounding bamboo leaves were instantly split into two. However, the sword was easily caught by Yizan with 2 fingers. Zhu Guiyu's reaction was also extremely quick. The sword shook and broke free from Yizan's fingers. Then, she stopped and turned the cloud sky sword around, slashing and stabbing in a flurry of storm-like attacks. However, Yizan moved so quickly that he managed to dodge all of her attacks. Given his cultivation level, he could easily see and predict her movements. Of course, among her peers, Zhu Guiyu's actual combat prowess was already pretty good. She did not reveal too many flaws. The cloud sky sword technique she displayed was natural and smooth. It was just that Yizan was far too powerful. Left with no other choice, Zhu Guiyu could only use her trump card, the 9 Serenities of Frost. In an instant, the cloud sky sword released an ice-cold aura. The temperature in the area dropped significantly, and the bamboo leaves that were moving with the wind froze instantly. There was a terrifying chill in the air that could even freeze the soul of a cultivator. Seeing this, Yizan nodded to himself. When combined with the profound ice divine bone, the 9 Serenities of Frost could directly attack the soul of a cultivator. Teacher, you have to be careful. Zhu Guiyu reminded him, and her expression turned extremely serious. The cloud sky sword in his hand transformed into an ice sword, and the icy aura condensed into a huge ice phoenix that rushed toward Yizan. If the two of them had the same cultivation level, and Yizan did not use the Flora sword technique, it would indeed be quite difficult for him to face the combined power of the profound ice divine bone and the 9 Serenities of Frost. Very good. It looks like you've already learned how to combine the power of your divine bone and divine power. Yizan nodded in satisfaction. With a wave of his sleeve, a powerful energy burst out and instantly dispersed the sword chi and the ice phoenix. 423 Chi. Zhu Guiyu had already reached the 2nd level of the materialization realm, and the combat training had helped her stabilize and solidify her cultivation foundation. It could be said that Zhu Guiyu was completely different from the unwanted girl who was isolated in the meeting hall more than 2 months ago. Perhaps Zhu Guiyu had not realized it, but her current abilities had already reached a level where cultivators of the same generation could only look up to her. She now stood on the same level as many of the peerless geniuses of the East Continent. Your cloud sky sword technique is already close to reaching the major mastery stage. It's a pity that you don't have a real lethal technique yet. Still, there's no hurry for that. I'll pick out a suitable technique for you later. Zhu Guiyu's eyes lit up. Thank you, teacher. You're the best. Hearing this, Yizan immediately smiled. He was very satisfied with this disciple of his. Soon after, Yizan's gaze fell on Feng Xian. Xian, it's your turn. Ah, right. Feng Xian had been spectating the battle between the two, so she was a little caught out when Yizan suddenly called her name. Yizan's mouth twitched when he saw this. This new disciple of his was a little air-headed at times. Yes, teacher. I'm coming over now. Feng Xian naturally realized it as well and hurried over. Let's begin. Like Yuyu, you use any move you want. Yizan stretched out his right hand and signaled Feng Xian to start attacking. All right, teacher. You have to be careful. Then, her expression turned serious as the spiritual power in her body gushed out and filled the surroundings with raging flames. This fire was the hellfire technique that Yizan had taught her. Seeing this, Yizan was a little surprised. He did not expect that the combination of the hellfire technique and her divine bone would be able to unleash such a powerful force. Very good. It seems that the divine power I imparted to her is very suitable for this girl. Yizan nodded, but did not say anything. Feng Xian was only a 2nd-level divine mystic realm cultivator. However, the divine bone in her body still contained a lot of energy. If she could perfectly absorb it, she would eventually be able to catch up to Zhu Guiyu's cultivation level. Of course, this was a matter of time. If she was too hasty, it was very likely to affect her cultivation foundation. Let's start, Yizan said lightly. Feng Xian suddenly erupted with the power of fire, and her figure left a series of afterimages as she used the hellfire technique to bombard Yizan. The surging power of fire turned the surrounding bamboo plants into ashes as smoke filled the air. Amidst the flames, a hand snaked out and tried to punch Yizan in the abdomen. Seeing this, Yizan's lips curled up. Then, he flashed to the side and grabbed Feng Xian's hand. Moments later, the true dragon patterns within Yizan's body suddenly erupted, suppressing the hellfire technique. At this moment, Feng Xian revealed a cunning smile. Suddenly, a dazzling pattern appeared on Feng Xian's hand as she broke free from Yizan's grasp. As she opened her arms, the flames that filled the sky suddenly transformed into a raging fire dragon that shot toward Yi Zan. This girl is quite smart. Yi Zan raised his eyebrows. Normally, cultivators would use the power of fire to attack, but this girl actually used the power of fire to strengthen her meridians and body. That was how she managed to break free from his grasp. However, in the face of an absolute power gap, this was all meaningless. Yi Zan tilted his body slightly and easily dodged the fire dragon. Then, he pushed Feng Xian away with a simple palm strike. Ah! Feng Xian rubbed her hands in pain as she pouted. She had almost succeeded, but Yi Zan had seen through her plan. Looking at her aggrieved expression, Yi Zan smiled and shook his head. Little girl, you're quite smart. Unfortunately, you still lack actual combat experience. You only thought about how to defeat me, but you didn't prepare any contingency plans for when your plan failed. If we were in a life and death battle, that would leave you in a desperate situation. The Hellfire technique is indeed powerful and can easily suppress cultivators of the same realm. However, you haven't mastered it. Yi Zan's mouth twitched when he thought of Feng Xian's Hellfire divine power. If other cultivators knew that his two disciples were using heaven-grade divine powers, they would probably die of jealousy and anger. Then, teacher, how can I improve my mastery of the Hellfire technique? Hearing this, Feng Xian hurriedly raised her head and looked straight at Yi Zan. Actually, it's not difficult. I'll teach you a palm technique called the Sky River Palm. This was created by the first few chiefs of Cloud Sky Peak. The palm technique is extremely profound and contains both the gentle and unyielding nature of the ocean. If you succeed in cultivating it, your strength will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. In this 1 month, your assignment is to completely master this palm technique. 424 Visitor. Feng Xian's eyes lit up when she heard this. She hurriedly walked over. Thank you, teacher. I will definitely cultivate diligently and will not let you down. Yi Zan then taught the Sky River Palm technique to Feng Xian. Feng Xian's comprehension ability was quite high. In just half an hour, she had already grasped the essence of the Sky River Palm technique. After doing all this, a smile appeared on Yi Zan's face. By now, he had basically accomplished everything that he wanted to teach his disciples for the time being. Zhu Guoyu cultivated sword techniques, while Feng Xian cultivated palm techniques. Their attributes were ice and fire respectively. Moreover, the grade of their divine bones was rather high, reaching the 7th level. As for how much these two girls could grow in the future, it would depend on their own efforts and comprehension ability. Senior sister, why don't we spar? Feng Xian issued Zhu Guoyu a challenge right after she had mastered the Sky River Palm technique. She did not want to fight Yi Zan again, as that would just be asking for a beating. Although Zhu Guoyu's cultivation level was higher than hers, if Zhu Guoyu suppressed her own cultivation level, the difference in strength between them would not be too large, with the only major difference being that Zhu Guoyu had been practicing the Cloud Sky Sword technique for a longer time, and that her combat experience was richer than Feng Xian's. Hearing her junior sister's request, Zhu Guoyu smiled and agreed. When Yi Zan saw this scene, his mouth twitched. Were they giving him the cold shoulder? Then again, when he thought about it more, it made sense for his two disciples to train together. At this moment, a system notification suddenly rang out in Yi Zan's mind. Ding! As the host has taught the Sky River Palm technique to his disciple, the host has received a randomized 10,000x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the divine power, the Boundless Palm technique. FCK. Yi Zan almost jumped up in excitement. This FC King High Reward multiplier was indeed a blessing. While his two disciples were training, Yi Zan also began to study the Boundless Palm technique. 5 days quickly flew by. That morning, Yi Zan was cultivating in his room, slowly comprehending the mysteries of the Boundless Palm technique. Hey, be careful. Put the stuff down properly. Don't break them. Suddenly, there was a commotion on Cloud Sky Peak. Hearing this, Yi Zan's eyes opened slightly, and then he walked out of the room. He saw a group of muscular men carrying boxes and carefully placing them in the courtyard. Who are you? Yi Zan's eyes were filled with confusion. Then, he saw Su Chang behind the men. Chief Yi Zan, we will meet again. Su Chang ran over with a fawning expression on his face. Beside Su Chang was Hua Rufeng. It was obvious that the latter was the one who had brought them up the peak. Rufeng greets Marshal Uncle Yi. This is young Master Su from the So family of Qingyang City. Today, young Master Su brought many servants to visit our great wilderness divine sect. He said that he was acquainted with Martial Uncle Yi and is here to give you some treasures. Thus, teacher told me to bring them here. Yi Zan nodded, then his gaze fell on Su Chang. As the saying goes, one doesn't visit without a reason. What do you want? Don't misunderstand, Chief Yi Zan. It was my father's idea for me to come here and visit you. My father noticed that Cloud Sky Peak was a little empty, so he wanted to give you some treasures to spruce things up. This is also our Su family's way of repaying Senior's kindness. We hope Senior will accept it, Su Cheng said with a smile. Treasures. Hearing this, Yi Zan raised his brows. Then, he walked over to the big boxes and opened them. The next second, golden light flashed across Yi Zan's field of vision, almost blinding his eyes. An entire box of profound gold. Yi Zan could not help but open his mouth. Profound gold is a currency refined from a special mineral in the mystic world. Ever since he had come to the mystic world, he had never seen such a large amount of profound gold in the past 100 years. He was truly a member of the Nouveau Riche now. It seemed that the rest of these boxes also contained profound gold. It was no wonder the other chiefs liked to go to the outside world to maintain good relations with the major families of the Yangli Divine Empire. It seemed that there was quite a lot of profit to be made. Yi Zan suddenly felt a little uneasy. When he was on the Tianyuan continent, he was also a man of great wealth. Mere spiritual stones were worthless to him. However, he was now in the mystic world. In the past 100 years, he had been guarding the poor Cloud Sky Peak and had to rely on the relief of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect to survive. In addition, Yi Zan had not awakened any divine bones, so he had been unable to obtain any profound gold back then. Furthermore, although the system was awesome, it did not supply him with money. Since Cloud Sky Peak now had 2 more disciples, he had been worrying about how to cover their living and cultivation expenses. Su Tiansheng was indeed a sharp person, and sent these boxes of profound gold to alleviate his need for money. Very good. It seems that having more friends is a way to go. Yi Zan was ecstatic internally, but deadpan externally. Yi Zan looked at Su Chang and said slowly, young Master Su and Master Su are indeed thoughtful, but as cultivators, we don't have much interest in these secular things. Of course, this is a token of your Su family's goodwill, so I will reluctantly accept it. Hearing this, Hua Rufeng's mouth twitched. As expected, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Chief Yi Zan was clearly very interested in it, but he was still able to put on a facade. The others might not know, but he was well aware of Cloud Sky Peak's heritage. Ever since Chief Tian Zan passed away, the only properties left on Cloud Sky Peak were those few wooden houses, yet this FC King guy could still act so calm in the face of 10,000 taels of profound gold, which was amazing in its own right. 425 Palace. Cough cough. Hua Rufeng did not expect Yi Zan to be such a person. Still, he was surprised that Yi Zan had managed to win the favor of the Su family, who were well known in Qingyang City for their wealth and power. It seemed that the youngest chief of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect was as capable as the others. Hua Rufeng took a meaningful look at Yi Zan. It was now necessary to build a good relationship with Yi Zan. However, although Hua Rufeng understood Cloud Sky Peak's situation, Su Cheng did not. When he heard Yi Zan say this, he felt admiration in his heart. This was a true expert. Yi Zan was unmoved despite the gift of 10,000 taels of profound gold. Chief Yi Zan is indeed, like my father said, a true expert. Such worldly possessions are clearly meaningless to you. In addition to the 10,000 taels of profound gold, my father also specifically asked me to bring other gifts. These are all specialties of our Su family in the extremely cold lands. This is a treasure called bitter spirit tea. Other than that, there are also many other rare treasures. By the way, father also specifically instructed us to build a palace for Chief Yi Zan. One befitting of your status and prestige. Oh, Yi Zan's eyes lit up. Su Tiansheng was really something. He had actually thought about everything in detail. He was truly a friend worth having. Over the past 100 years, not only did Yi Zan lack cultivation resources, but even his residence was rather shabby. Although he was also a chief of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, his residence on Cloud Sky Peak was not much better than the residences of mortals in the outside world. Master Su is indeed very considerate. In that case, this matter will be left in your care. As an immortal cultivator, I don't pay too much attention to these things. You can do as you see fit, Yi Zan said indifferently. When Hua Rufeng saw this scene, he was in awe. Martial Uncle Yi's ability to maintain his composure was truly top-notch. It was no wonder he managed to hide his strength for so many years. Su Chang, on the other hand, was elated. After getting Yi Zan's permission and approval, he was prepared to go all out and do something big. After all, this was a rare opportunity for him. If he performed well, he might be able to draw Yi Zan closer to his family. Moreover, Yi Zan was one of the chiefs of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. If he was happy and taught him some high-grade divine power or something, would that not be amazing? What are you guys doing? Hurry up and get to work. I'll give you 30 days. You must complete the palace within a month. Su Chang immediately gave orders to the servants he had brought along. It had to be admitted that the Su family was indeed extremely rich. Soon, even more workers poured into Cloud Sky Peak to construct the palace. As per Yi Zan's instructions, the brand new palace would be built in the peach forest on the mountain peak, which was surrounded by a sea of blooming flowers. If a luxurious palace was added, would it not be the perfect place for cultivation? Yi Zan smiled as he watched Su Chang diligently lead the workers to construct the palace. Yi Zan returned to the courtyard and sat on the chair in the hall. The corners of his mouth curved into a beautiful arc, and he was already looking forward to the new palace in his mind. Greetings, Martial Uncle Yi. Just then, Hua Rufeng walked in. Rufeng, is there something you need from me? Yi Zan looked up, a little puzzled. He was not sure why this kid was still here. In any case, Yi Zan was quite satisfied with Hua Rufeng. After all, in the past 100 years, Hua Rufeng was the person he was most familiar with aside from his two disciples. Hearing this, Hua Rufeng could not help but smile and then slowly said, I was told that Martial Uncle Yi accepted another disciple. Is she around? As her senior brother, I'd really like to meet her. In fact, before he came to Cloud Sky Peak, Gongsun Shoyu had specifically instructed Hua Rufeng to take the opportunity to investigate Yi Zan's two disciples. After all, once he found out that Yi Zan was a mystic Lord Realm expert, Gongsun Shoyu was shocked. He now had to pay special attention to all matters regarding Cloud Sky Peak. Gongsun Shoyu was especially curious about Yi Zan. Why had a mystic Lord Realm expert like him hidden his strength for 100 years? However, no matter what, this meant that the Great Wilderness Divine Sect now had an additional mystic Lord Realm expert. This gave him hope that the Great Wilderness Divine Sect would rise again. The two girls are cultivating on the mountain peak, and it's almost time for them to finish. As expected, as soon as Yi Zan finished speaking, two beautiful figures suddenly appeared outside the courtyard. Teacher, we're back from our cultivation session. Zhu Yuyu and Feng Xian were holding hands as they walked in with smiles on their faces. When they entered the main hall of the courtyard, they saw Hua Rufeng inside. Senior brother Hua, it's been a long time. Why have you come to Cloud Sky Peak? 426 Hua Rufeng's shock. When she had first entered the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, it was Hua Rufeng who had taken care of her and taught them the sect's rules. Haha, I didn't expect junior sister Zhu to have become even more beautiful after only a few months, Hua Rufeng laughed and teased. Zhu Yueyu's face turned slightly red. She was a little shy from the praise. Xian, the person in front of you is the eldest senior brother of our Great Wilderness Divine Sect. His name is Hua Rufeng, but you can call him senior brother Hua. Zhu Yueyu hurriedly introduced him to Feng Xian. Greetings, senior brother Hua, Feng Xian said politely. Senior brother Hua, she is the disciple that master has just accepted. Her name is Feng Xian. When Hua Rufeng's eyes fell on Feng Xian, he was shocked. Oh my god, another genius with a divine bone. Hua Rufeng was dumbfounded. Furthermore, her divine bone seemed to be no weaker than Zhu Yueyu's profound ice divine bone. In the future, if they were to encounter some opportunities, they might even be able to evolve these divine bones into immortal bones. Immortal bones were comparable to Dao bodies. Martial Uncle Yi Zan has an extraordinary eye for talent. Although he only had two disciples, both were extremely talented. Furthermore, Yi Zan himself was a monster. When Chief Tian Zan brought him back, he was ridiculed by the cultivators of the other peaks, who thought that he had become old and muddled. How could he bring back such a piece of trash? However, in a mere 100 years, that piece of trash had already become a mystic Lord Realm expert. If Yi Zan was a FC King piece of trash, then what were they? Thinking this, Hua Rufeng's body trembled slightly. Seeing it for himself, he now believed that Cloud Sky Peak was the most impressive of the 7 peaks of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. Junior sister Feng is indeed extraordinary. Your level of talent almost gave me a heart attack just now. When she heard Hua Rufeng's generous praise, Feng Xian felt a little shy. She knew in her heart that the reason why she had this divine bone was entirely due to her teacher's efforts. What is junior sister Zug's cultivation level now? Hua Rufeng asked straightforwardly. Gongsun Shoyu had specifically instructed him to check on their cultivation levels. Hearing this, Zug Yuyu hesitated and looked at Yi Zan. Yi Zan smiled and nodded, indicating that it was fine to reveal it. Senior brother Hua, I've already reached the second level of the materialization realm, Zug Yuyu said. Second level of the divine mystic realm. That's not bad. Hua Rufeng smiled and nodded. 2 months ago, Zug Yuyu had already reached the first level of the divine mystic realm, so taking 2 months to reach the second level was to be expected. However, Hua Rufeng was still a little disappointed. Suddenly, Hua Rufeng jolted to attention. Wait a minute, what did she just say? What, junior sister, did you just say that you've broken through to the second level of the materialization realm? Yes, is there something wrong? Zug Yuyu was a little puzzled by his reaction. Hearing this, Hua Rufeng was dumbfounded. Could it be that she thought it was natural for her to reach the materialization realm in 2 months? That's unbelievable. You've made such huge strides in just 2 months. Hua Rufeng's eyes were filled with disbelief. Even a genius with a high-grade divine bone could not accomplish this feat, right? Zug Yuyu then responded in a serious tone, actually, there's nothing strange about it. When teacher and I went out to train, we killed many berserk beasts and seemed to have absorbed quite a bit of power from their precious bones. That's why my cultivation advanced a bit faster. Of course, Zug Yuyu kept one thing from him. Due to the effect of the heavenly marrow pill, Zug Yuyu's body had been completely transformed. It was also because of this that when Zug Yuyu absorbed the precious bones of the berserk beasts, there were no side effects. The medicinal power of the heavenly marrow pill would remove the impurities from the precious bone, allowing her to absorb it easily. However, due to her rapid breakthroughs, there were still some problems. At that moment, her cultivation foundation was still not fully stable, which was why Yi Zan had brought her out to train and gain experience. Now, after 60 days of continuous training and tempering, Zug Yuyu's cultivation foundation had become extremely stable, and her spiritual power flowed smoothly. I see. Hearing this, Hua Rufeng could not help but come to a sudden realization, and envy welled up in his heart. Zug Yuyu really had a good teacher. He was always paying attention to her cultivation. At the other peaks, most disciples would be left to their own devices after being taught the necessary cultivation techniques. Only those stronger and more outstanding disciples would receive personal attention and guidance from the chiefs. Otherwise, it was usually the senior disciples guiding the junior disciples. In fact, it was not particularly rare for people to absorb the power of precious bones to increase their cultivation, just like Zug Yuyu. However, normally, cultivators would not dare to absorb too much power from precious bones. After all, not only did the precious bones of the berserk beasts contain dense spiritual energy, but also the remnant thoughts and grudges of the berserk beasts while they had been alive. If one's sea of consciousness was invaded by these thoughts and grudges, it might cause a case of cultivation deviation, or in more serious cases, death. Hua Rufeng's teacher, Gongsun Shoyu, was the sect master of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. He had to deal with all the matters of the sect every day, and did not have the time to take care of his disciples' cultivation progress. If they were to have any problems while absorbing the precious bones' power, their future as cultivators would be bleak. It was precisely because of this that Hua Rufeng was very cautious in doing things, especially when it came to cultivation. What about junior sister Feng? Hua Rufeng's gaze fell on Feng Xian. Feng Xian had just joined the sect, so her current cultivation level should not be anything special, right? Me. Feng Xian smiled lightly and said playfully, Senior brother Hua, I'm currently a 3rd level divine mystic realm cultivator. 427 breaking through. Hua Rufeng was dumbfounded. This time, he heard it very clearly. 3rd level of the divine mystic realm. Are you kidding me? Even the young man who had joined the Great Wilderness Divine Sect at the same time as Zug Yuyu was only at the 8th level of the mystic meridian realm. Having reached this level in just 2 months, he was already considered a peerless genius of the younger generation of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. During this period of time, Gao Shun had been quite pleased with himself, showing off his disciple in front of the other chiefs every day. However, compared to Chief Yi Zan's disciple, was that guy not just trash? Thinking this, Hua Rufeng wondered what Gao Shun's reaction would be when he found out the cultivation levels of Yi Zan's 2 disciples. Ha ha ha. As soon as this image appeared in his mind, Warufeng could not help but laugh. However, he soon realized that he had lost his composure and quickly apologized. I'm really sorry. I suddenly thought of something happy and couldn't restrain myself. When Feng Xian and Zhu Yuyu saw this, they glanced at each other. Then, Feng Xian whispered, Senior sister, why do I feel that senior brother Hua is rather strange? Weren't we talking about cultivation levels? Why did he suddenly laugh? Zhu Yuyu's mouth twitched. She did not know how to reply. From the looks of it, senior brother Hua was indeed a little abnormal. Teacher was the best. No matter what happened, he was able to remain calm and composed. Warufeng's expression became extremely awkward and he quickly coughed a few times. Cough cough. Martial Uncle Yi, the cultivation of these two junior sisters really shocked me. Master Uncle Yi is truly gifted at both cultivation and teaching disciples. If the other chiefs find out, they would definitely be shocked. Actually, it's nothing much. I was just casually teaching them, Yi Zan said lightly. Hearing this, Warufeng's mouth twitched. Was this guy not showing off? Martial Uncle Yi is really modest. I've learned a lot. At this moment, Zhu Yuyu was indeed curious. Teacher, what's going on at Cloud Sky Peak? Why are there so many people here? That's right. When we came back just now, we suddenly found that there were a lot of people in the peach forest to the north. They seem to be building something. Yi Zan's eyes twitched slightly. He did not answer immediately, but took a sip of the tea that Su Chang had just given him. It indeed tasted a little bitter when it first entered his mouth, but after carefully savoring it, the tip of his tongue was filled with a faint fragrance. It was bitter, and then sweet. Yi Zan could not help but sigh. The taste of wealth was really different. He had naturally heard of the name of this bitter spirit tea before. It was a specialty of Qingyang City. The price was extremely high, and those who could enjoy this kind of tea were mostly aristocrats. Cough cough. As if sensing the resentful gazes of his two disciples, Yi Zan coughed briefly before starting to explain. Those people are all from the Su family. They brought many gifts to our Cloud Sky Peak, including 10,000 taels of profound gold. Oh right, they're planning to build a palace for us in the peach forest. Feng Xian and Zhu Yuyu's eyes lit up when they heard this. Is it true? In these few days, Zhu Yuyu had brought Feng Xian to tour the other peaks, which were all magnificent in comparison to Cloud Sky Peak, and had far better living conditions. Does that mean we'll have a palace to live in the future? That's right. I'm sure that the palace will be pretty large once it's completed. At that time, you can choose whichever room or building you want, Yi Zan smiled and said. However, as cultivators, your priority should be on cultivation. Don't get carried away with worldly possessions. In the path of cultivation, the most important thing is to follow one's heart. When one's heart is clear, one's actions will flow naturally. Warufeng was stunned. He had not expected Yi Zan to have such a deep understanding of the laws of the world. It was truly shocking. It was no wonder he managed to break through to the mystic lord realm at such a young age. Warufeng's eyes revealed a look of enlightenment. As the eldest senior disciple of the great wilderness divine sect, he seemed to have restrained his Dao heart too much over the years because of his identity, and cared too much about what others thought. This caused him to be extremely cautious in everything he did. He wanted to achieve perfection so that he would not be criticized by others. However, he did not expect that it would cause him to almost forget his original heart for cultivation. Thinking this, Warufeng became emotional. In fact, he was quite talented in cultivation. Even if he was compared to Mu Baiken, he was not much weaker. Yet, the latter had surpassed him by 4 levels, which dealt a huge blow to his self-confidence. However, now that he heard Yi Zan's words, he suddenly had an epiphany. After Yi Zan finished speaking, a magical aura suddenly gushed out from Warufeng's body. Seeing this, Yi Zan could not help but raise his eyebrows. Could it be that this kid is about to break through? 428 Strange Phenomenon. When Zhu Yuyu and Feng Xian saw this, they were also surprised. Then, they quickly moved away. A few casual words from Yi Zan had caused Warufeng to start breaking through. Interesting. It seems like this kid's comprehension is not bad. Yi Zan smiled. Warufeng was in a state of epiphany, which was something that countless cultivators pursued. Such a rare opportunity was not something that could be obtained just because one wanted to. In the state of epiphany, the gains one could obtain far exceeded the value of spiritual pills and elixirs. Layers of mysterious ripples suddenly spread out around Warufeng, and the spiritual energy of the surroundings suddenly gathered around him. A spiral appeared above Cloud Sky Peak. At the same time, in the meeting hall, Gongsun Shoyu, who had been cultivating with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. This phenomenon, could it be an epiphany? The spiritual energy in the surroundings was gathering in the direction of Cloud Sky Peak. Could it be caused by the disciples of Cloud Sky Peak? Gongsun Shoyu waved his sleeves and turned into a streak of light as he headed toward the source of the phenomenon. At this moment, Yuelin, who was teaching Li Shuiye, suddenly raised her head. Looking at the spiral-shaped spiritual energy in the sky, she was shocked. Who is the one who caused this phenomenon? Teacher, it's coming from the direction of Cloud Sky Peak. Could it be Martial Uncle Yi? Li Shuiye asked. After what had happened earlier, Li Shuiye and the others had realized that Martial Uncle Yi, who was called trash by countless people, was actually a wolf in sheep's clothing. He was a powerful expert, who had remained low-key this entire time. Yuelin had a contemplative look in her eyes. Anyone who could cause such a phenomenon was no ordinary person. Hanyi, come with me. Then, with a wave of her sleeve, Yuelin disappeared with Li Hanyi. As the strange phenomenon above Cloud Sky Peak became more and more pronounced, the cultivators of the 7 peaks of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect also noticed it. It left everyone shocked. Gao Shun had been about to return to his residence to rest when he had sensed the phenomenon. His spiritual sense immediately swept out, but when he realized that it originated from Cloud Sky Peak, his gaze turned cold. Damn it! Why is it Cloud Sky Peak again? Multiple streaks of light flashed and headed in the direction of Cloud Sky Peak. Yizan also noticed this, and his figure suddenly flickered and appeared in the courtyard. Yizan's mouth twitched as he looked at the scene outside. There are too many people coming here. Yizan had never seen such a lively scene since he joined the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. A bright light flashed by, and Gongsun Shoyu's figure suddenly appeared. Junior brother Yi, who is the one who caused this strange phenomenon? Gongsun Shoyu asked anxiously. Someone who could cause such a sensation had to be a genius, and would be treasured by the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. No matter who it was, this person was from the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, so he was naturally very excited. Moreover, he had already guessed in his heart that it was probably not Zhu Guiyu, but Feng Xian, Yizan's newest disciple. Yizan smiled, but did not explain. At this moment, a few more bright lights suddenly flashed past. Ha ha ha, Junior brother Yi's Cloud Sky Peak is truly a place of great talents. The sudden appearance of such a strange phenomenon almost scared me silly. Before the person arrived, his voice had already resounded. Liang Dahai from Sword Spirit Peak and Gao Shangyu from Sword Trial Peak appeared. Then, Yuelin appeared with Li Hanyi. After briefly examining the strange phenomenon, she said to Yizan softly, Junior brother Yi, your Cloud Sky Peak is really full of surprises. Hurry up and tell us. Who caused this strange phenomenon? Yizan smiled and said nothing. It was great showing off and acting cool. At the same time, everyone looked at the spiral-shaped spiritual energy and suddenly became anxious. Gongsun Shoyu coughed and said seriously, Junior brother Yi, don't keep us in suspense. Just tell us. Senior brother Gongsun, you think too highly of our Cloud Sky Peak. This phenomenon was not caused by my disciples, but yours. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone suddenly turned silent. A disciple of Gongsun Shoyu. What the FCK? Was this a joke? How could Gongsun Shoyu's disciple cultivate on Cloud Sky Peak, and even cause such a magnificent phenomenon? 429 Epiphany. For a moment, everyone's eyes fell on Gongsun Shoyu, and Gao Shun's expression became even more unsightly. Senior brother Gongsun, when did you take in such a talented disciple? You even had him secretly cultivate on Cloud Sky Peak. Were you afraid of us finding out? Liang Dahai and Gao Shangyu, who were beside him, were also a little unhappy. Liang Dahai said, Senior brother, didn't you promise not to take in any more disciples? You secretly recruited another talented disciple. What about the other peaks? We've been in the same sect for hundreds of years. Shouldn't you take our feelings into account? Gongsun Shoyu was confused. What the FCK was going on? Ever since he had taken Hua Rufeng as his disciple, he had not taken in any other disciples for many years. Junior brother Yi, don't scare me. Hurry up and explain. Cold sweat broke out on Gongsun Shoyu's forehead as he looked to Yizan for help. Wait, it seemed that he really did have a disciple on Cloud Sky Peak. Just as Gongsun Shoyu was finally about to connect the dots, Yizan said with a smile, why don't you go and see for yourself? As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zan turned his body slightly, and then a handsome young man in green suddenly appeared in everyone's field of vision. Isn't that martial nephew Hua Rufeng? Everyone's expression changed when they saw this. It turned out that the sect master's disciple Yi Zan was talking about was Hua Rufeng. Oh my god, brother did it. When Li Hanyi, who was next to Yuelin, saw this, she was astonished and shocked. She had originally thought that the phenomenon was caused by one of Cloud Sky Peak's disciples. She had not expected that the source of the phenomenon to be her own brother. When Gongsun Shoyu saw this, he was equally shocked. As Hua Rufeng's teacher, he was very familiar with Hua Rufeng's level of talent. Hua Rufeng had only reached the 5th level of the materialization realm. How could he cause such a phenomenon? Junior brother Yi, what happened? Gongsun Shoyu's expression suddenly became serious. At the same time, everyone's attention turned to Yi Zan, as they stared at him curiously. What had happened to Hua Rufeng to cause such a phenomenon? Seeing this, Yi Zan said lightly, it's not a big deal. I just gave him a few words of advice, and then he had an epiphany. Could he be more serious? What did he mean by that? He gave a few pointers and the other person had an epiphany. FCK. If epiphanies were so easy to come by, then he should give some to them. It really is an epiphany. Yuelin was shocked when she examined Hua Rufeng. It's really unbelievable. An epiphany is a rare phenomenon that only happens once in 100 years. I didn't expect martial nephew Rufeng to experience one. What did this guy say to Hua Rufeng to elicit an epiphany? Everyone's hearts were filled with doubt. Of course, Gongsun Shoyu was the most curious one. After all, it was his disciple who was experiencing an epiphany, and he as the teacher had nothing to do with it. Everyone's eyes fell on Yi Zan again. The useless chief of Cloud Sky Peak, who was once ridiculed by everyone, had actually hidden himself so well. Gao Shun, Liang Dahai, and the others' expressions immediately turned serious. Was this really the young man that Chief Tian Zan brought back 100 years ago? His transformation was simply unbelievable. Their hearts were filled with shock. Just then, Gongsun Shoyu also came back to his senses. He looked deeply at Yi Zan, and then at Hua Rufeng, who was sitting cross-legged in the courtyard. A touch of satisfaction flashed across the depths of his eyes. It seemed that his previous guess was correct. He had to pay close attention to Cloud Sky Peak. Yi Zan's strength was extremely terrifying, and had now reached the same level as him. In addition, his disciples were all peerless geniuses with outstanding levels of talent. Everything else aside, the sect had to provide sufficient cultivation resources. Gongsun Shoyu quickly made a decision. 430 Limitless Future. Right at this moment Gao Shun put down his pride and asked, Junior brother Yi, can you tell us what you taught him? How did martial nephew Hua enter a state of epiphany? Yi Zan smiled and said lightly, truth be told, I didn't pay much attention to martial nephew Hua at that time. I was actually teaching my disciples, and martial nephew Hua was listening by the side. I honestly didn't expect him to suddenly have an epiphany. Everyone's mouth twitched when they heard this. This was indeed very sudden. Most importantly, this guy had actually said this so calmly. The chiefs pondered this matter briefly. Damn it, this guy had definitely made up nonsense to confuse them. How could some random teachings be enough to make a bystander suddenly experience an epiphany? He was clearly hiding something. At this moment, the spiritual energy gathering around Hua Rufeng became more and more intense. The vortex of spiritual energy erupted with dazzling light. A mysterious light then burst forth from Hua Rufeng's body, which then seemed to draw all of the spiritual energy into his body. It's about to start. When Gongsun Shoyu saw this, he immediately became nervous. Given the vastness of the spiritual energy gathered here, everyone was wondering how much Hua Rufeng's cultivation would progress. At this moment, Hua Rufeng's expression suddenly turned pale and pained. It was as if the meridians in his body could not withstand this vast power. However, with the infusion of this power, Hua Rufeng's cultivation level also improved rapidly. 5th level materialization realm, 6th level materialization realm, 9th level materialization realm, hiss. When everyone saw this, they sucked in a breath of cold air. This guy has actually increased his cultivation by 5 levels. This was indeed a once-in-a-century opportunity for him. It seems like the 9th level is his limit. If he wants to break through to the void realm, he must comprehend the power of laws. I wonder if he can do it before the epiphany ends. The scene suddenly turned quiet, for fear that their voices would disturb Hua Rufeng's epiphany. At this moment, Yi Zan took a step forward and suddenly walked toward Hua Rufeng, speaking naturally and indifferently. Yi Zan's words were like the voice from the heavens as he guided Hua Rufeng's breakthrough. In an instant, the spiritual sea in Hua Rufeng's body suddenly trembled. Mysterious ripples rippled with the power of the two extremes of the world. In the deepest part of the spiritual sea, a special force suddenly condensed. This was the power of the laws. What? He actually succeeded. When everyone saw this, they were shocked. Yi Zan had only said a few sentences, yet Hua Rufeng had managed to comprehend the power of the laws and successfully broke through to the void realm. Boom! Hua Rufeng's body suddenly trembled, and his newfound void realm spiritual power rippled out. As he had just reached the void realm, he was unable to control the power in his body. Fortunately, Yi Zan was right next to him. With a light wave of his sleeve, he suppressed the surging spiritual power. After Hua Rufeng woke up, he knelt down in Yi Zan's direction. Rufeng will remember Martial Uncle Yi Zan's guidance, he said gratefully. Thanks to Yi Zan's words, he had actually reached the void realm. He finally understood why the disciples of Cloud Sky Peak were so powerful. It was their teacher that made the difference. Seeing his own disciple kneel before someone else, Gongsun Shoyu felt slightly frustrated. Having said that, he was quite pleased with Hua Rufeng, and his attitude toward Yi Zan also changed. Hua Rufeng would be the successor to the sect master position in the future if everything went well. As such, the more outstanding he was, the better. Martial nephew Hua, please get up. You were able to reach the void realm because of your own comprehension ability. Without your level of talent, even if I spoke a million words, it would not have helped, Yi Zan said very calmly. When everyone heard, a sense of admiration spontaneously arose in their hearts. From then on, they would no longer doubt Yi Zan's ability to teach disciples. Hua Rufeng slowly stood up, and he put on his usual smile. He first bowed to his teacher, and then saluted the other chiefs. However, a careful person would find that Hua Rufeng's behavior seemed to have changed and had become more casual than before. He was different from the calm and steady person who pursued perfection wholeheartedly before this. When the chiefs realized this, they realized that his state of mind had also achieved a breakthrough, and that his future was now limitless. 431 Another epiphany. As expected of junior brother Yi, a few short sentences was enough to pave the way to a breakthrough. This has truly been eye-opening. Liang Dahai laughed and started to flatter him. After the incident just now, his attitude towards Yi Zan had completely changed, from disdain to admiration. After all, there was no deep or eternal hatred between the Seven Peaks, and they were all part of the same sect. The competition between them only served to make the sect stronger. Hearing this, Yi Zan smiled. Senior brother, you're too kind with your words. It's just a small matter. Ha ha ha. If this is a small matter, I wonder when junior brother Yi will have the time to give me some pointers, Yuelin said with a smile. Oh, hearing this, Yi Zan raised his brows. He whispered in her ear, if senior sister is willing, let's find a quiet place to have this discussion. When Yuelin heard this, she blushed slightly. Although she was secretly happy, she did not show it on her face. She simply laughed and said, sure. Since junior brother has said so, then we'll make an appointment another day. At this moment, Gao Shun, who had been silent, walked toward Hua Rufeng. Martial Uncle Gao, is there something wrong? Seeing this, Hua Rufeng was puzzled. Gao Shun did not say much, but used his spiritual sense to scan Hua Rufeng's current physical condition. So he had really reached the void realm. Gao Shun turned around and walked away with difficulty. His pupils were filled with shock. He then looked deeply at Zhu Guoyu and Feng Xian. As Gongsun Shoyu's disciple, Hua Rufeng had only listened to Yi Zan's guidance for a while and managed to experience an epiphany. In that case, what level had Yi Zan's two disciples reached? He had never forgotten the bet with Yi Zan. His mood was complicated, and he wanted nothing more than to check. However, the Seven Peaks competition was approaching, so checking their cultivation level in front of everyone was simply inappropriate. After the incident ended, everyone dispersed. However, as if affected by Hua Rufeng's breakthrough to the void realm, the cultivators of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect would all begin to cultivate like crazy. Gongsun Shoyu looked at everyone, and then said to Yi Zan, what you did today has really opened my eyes. With just a few words, my disciple experienced an epiphany. This speaks volumes about junior brother Yi's own comprehension ability and cultivation level. The people around him nodded in agreement. Senior brother Gongsun is too kind. I'm still far from being a true expert, Yi Zan said lightly. When Gao Shun saw this, a hint of a cold smile appeared on his face. HMPH. It was just a coincidence. Martial nephew Hua's talent is outstanding, so it was only to be expected that he would encounter an epiphany at some point. You just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Yi Zan laughed when he heard this. He was not bothered by Gao Shun's words, because at this moment, a system notification had suddenly rang out in Yi Zan's mind. Ding. As the host has helped a cultivator of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect to obtain an epiphany, the host has obtained a randomized 100x critical reward. Congratulations. The host has obtained an epiphany experience opportunity. The benefits gained by the host during this epiphany will be 100 times that of what Hua Rufeng gained. The system really was awesome. It even rewarded him for catalyzing an epiphany experience. Yi Zan looked at Gao Shun with a smile. Senior brother Gao, you're right. An epiphany opportunity is hard to come by once even in 100 years. It can be said to be a favor bestowed by the heavens. There's no way it could have been caused by me. It's good that junior brother Yi understands this. I'm just giving you a kind reminder so that you don't become arrogant. It's better to be down to earth. Oh, what if I can immediately enter a state of epiphany? Yi Zan asked indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, Gongsun Shoyu, who was about to leave, suddenly turned around. Everyone's eyes fell on Yi Zan at the same time, and the scene suddenly became quiet. Everyone knew that Cloud Sky Peak and Hidden Sword Peak had never been on good terms, especially the relationship between the two chiefs. They did not expect the two of them to fight again at this moment. It seemed that there would be some sort of show to watch now. Junior brother Yi, you can say whatever you want, but it doesn't mean a thing unless it actually happens, Gao Shun said coldly. Do you really think that it's so easy to obtain an epiphany experience opportunity? Most cultivators never experience one in their entire lives. Gao Shun's eyes were full of ridicule, as he really felt that Yi Zan's words were ridiculous. The chiefs had all been cultivating for hundreds or even thousands of years to break through and reach their current levels. Not everyone could be as lucky as Hua Rufeng. Yi Zan's words not only made Gao Shun laugh, but the other chiefs beside him also shook their heads, thinking that Yi Zan was bragging. Yi Zan, on the other hand, smiled. He liked it best when he could prove people wrong in front of their faces. After that, Yi Zan stretched his back and slowly walked out of the courtyard. The very next second, a surge of energy suddenly erupted, as the spiritual energy in the surroundings began to condense and gather around him. What's going on? When everyone saw this scene, their eyes were filled with disbelief. A terrifying spiritual energy vortex formed above Cloud Sky Peak, one that was 100 times stronger than Hua Rufeng's. Isn't this an epiphany? When Gongsun Shoyu saw this, his pupils shrank. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He was completely dumbfounded. Everyone was shocked senseless, especially Gao Shun, whose expression was constantly contorting and changing. No, that's impossible. How could he enter a state of epiphany? Why does it seem like his epiphany far exceeds Hua Rufeng's as well? 432 Unbelievable. As much as they did not want to believe it, the truth was in front of their eyes. As time passed, the spiritual energy vortex grew more and more turbulent, and the sky above Cloud Sky Peak turned dark, as purple lightning began to gather in the clouds. When Yuelin saw this scene, she sputtered, "How did this guy do it?" Yi Zan was becoming more and more unfathomable. Li Hanyi could only marvel from the side. As expected of martial Uncle Yi, he actually initiated an epiphany voluntarily. Such monstrous talent can be said to be unprecedented and unparalleled. This is unbelievable. Gongsun Shoyu's body trembled uncontrollably. He had thought that Yi Zan's words had just been a joke to infuriate Gao Shun. How had it turned out to be true? Obviously, the most shocked one was Gao Shun, who felt like his world had turned upside down. No, this is absolutely impossible. How can one initiate one's own epiphany? This guy must be pretending. There has to be some sort of trick behind this. Just you wait. Once I figure out what it is, I'll expose you for the fraud you are. Gao Shun was about to intervene to try and expose Yi Zan when a bolt of lightning suddenly flashed across the sky and exploded nearby. Boom. It contained the power of a Mystic Lord Realm expert's attack. When Gao Shun saw this, he hurriedly retreated several steps. What a powerful lightning. Everyone's expression changed when they saw this. The spiritual pressure bearing down from the sky was vast and mighty, and suppressed those who were present. It was completely different from Hua Rufeng's epiphany. After all, Yi Zan was a top-tier early-stage Mystic Lord Realm expert. The epiphany he was experiencing would cause far more powerful heavenly phenomena. Oh my god, is everyone from Cloud Sky Peak so monstrous? This is FC King unreasonable. Isn't Marshall Uncle Yu a little too scary? Isn't this a proper show of dominance? I thought that Chief Yizan was just bragging. How could this have happened? Everyone looked at the terrifying phenomena in the sky in shock and awe. The spiritual energy contained in the vortex continued to increase over time, until it reached a terrifying level. At the center of the vortex, Yizan's eyes were closed. Indistinctly, a brilliant golden lotus of the great Tao bloomed above Yizan's head, drawing in the spiritual energy. When Gongsun Shoyu saw the golden lotus of the great Tao, he was dumbfounded. A Tao body. When the chiefs noticed his expression, they glanced at Yizan, and then at each other. The shock on each of their faces was evident. Even Gao Shun, who had doubted Yizan just now, felt complete despair when he saw this scene. How did this guy end up having a Tao body? Why did Chief Tianzan never mention it? I finally understand why Yizan was chosen to be Chief Tianzan's disciple and to inherit Cloud Sky Peak. Discussions were rife among the crowd as everyone witnessed this incredulous scene with their very own eyes. Fortunately, the owner of the Tao body was a cultivator of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. The sudden epiphany made sense now. The Tao body allowed him greater comprehension, after all. At that moment, the spiritual energy vortex in the sky suddenly turned into a dazzling golden divine dragon that charged toward Yizan. Roar! Every scale on the golden divine dragon was shining with bright light. These scales were condensed from the spiritual energy of the surroundings and poured into Yizan's body in a flash. Yizan's face contorted in pain, but he quickly circulated the Chaos Heart technique and used his Mystic Lord Realm cultivation to suppress the surging spiritual energy. Ever since he had broken through to the early stage of the Mystic Lord Realm, he had been consolidating his cultivation foundation. Thus, his cultivation level had not increased too much. However, this was destined to change today, as the vast amount of spiritual energy flooded his body. Yizan even felt his cultivation bottleneck loosening. As this happened, no one dared to breathe as they stared at Yizan's figure within the vortex. This included Gao Shun. Although he was very unconvinced, the truth was right in front of him. The level of talent and strength that Yizan had displayed were unparalleled, and it had given his self-confidence a severe blow. Most importantly, he could clearly sense the obvious change in Gongsun Shoyu's attitude toward Yizan. It seemed that even his status in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect was at risk. Although he was unwilling to see this happen, he was also helpless to do anything about it. A few months ago, Gao Shun was still confident that he had everything in his grasp. He thought that the Great Wilderness Divine Sect was under his control and that Yizan was just a useless piece of trash. However, Yizan had caught up to him, and had now exceeded him. 433 Showing off. Was it impossible to change the fate of Hidden Sword Peak and Cloud Sky Peak? Gao Shun's heart was filled with complicated feelings. No one would have thought that Yizan had hidden himself so deeply. No one would have thought that a piece of trash without a divine bone would have the Tao body and even hide in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect for 100 years. After all, no matter how much humiliation Yizan had suffered in the past 100 years, he had never reciprocated. That in itself was a terrifying feat. Had he revealed his Tao body, the Great Wilderness Divine Sect would not have hesitated to pour all of their cultivation resources into him. Yet, this fellow had chosen to hide it. Suddenly, Gongsun Shoyu understood. It was easy for geniuses to fall. Before one had absolute strength, showing off one's talent too early would only bring about disaster, and make one a target. The best way was to keep a low profile and accumulate strength. At this moment, within the spiritual energy vortex, Yizan's eyes were tightly shut. The Chaos Heart technique was constantly being circulated. Then, his eyes suddenly opened, and a bright divine light flashed within the depths of his pupils, following which, a terrifying aura swept out toward everyone present. Not good. Hurry up and leave this place. Yuelin saw this and hurriedly retreated with Li Hanyi. Yizan was a Mystic Lord Realm expert. Those weaker than him would be injured by this aura, or even killed. Fortunately, Gongsun Shoyu was at the peak of the Mystic Lord Realm. With a wave of his sleeve, an ancient stone pagoda suddenly appeared and enveloped Yizan. It suppressed the aura that Yizan was exuding. After absorbing this vast power, Yizan's cultivation broke through again and reached the middle stage of the Mystic Lord Realm. As one's cultivation realm increased, the difficulty of breaking through would also increase. Therefore, even if Yizan gained 100 times more benefits than Warufeng from the Epiphany, he could only improve his cultivation by one minor realm. However, this was already a significant strength increase. After the breakthrough, Yi Zan's eyes shone with light, and his entire body rose into the air. A mysterious aura rippled around him, and Yi Zan activated the boundless palm technique. Although he had the help of the system, Yi Zan had basically comprehended the core of the technique, he was still one step away from completely mastering it. The current state of epiphany was undoubtedly the best opportunity. Then, as everyone watched, Yi Zan condensed a giant hand in the sky, which created spatial ripples. When everyone saw this, they were shocked. This palm technique contained terrifying and overbearing power. When it rippled slightly, it had the power to shatter mountains and seas. It was as if everything in the world was held within that palm. When Gongsun Shoyu saw this, his pupils shrank. His eyes were filled with shock as he spoke with a trembling voice. This is an immortal grade divine power. What? Everyone's eyes widened in shock. Even an ancient sect like the Great Wilderness Divine Sect did not have an immortal grade divine power. The strongest divine power the sect had was a heaven grade 1, and only the sect master was qualified to cultivate it. Yet Yi Zan's palm technique had actually exceeded this. Senior brother, are you sure? Is that really an immortal grade divine power? Yuelin's eyes were filled with disbelief. I'm certain. Gongsun Shoyu nodded solemnly. I cultivate the Great Wilderness technique, so I am naturally familiar with the power of heaven grade divine powers. However, compared to what junior brother Yi has practiced, it's clearly lacking. Only a legendary immortal grade divine power can display such profound strength. I didn't expect junior brother Yi's talent to be so monstrous. Not only does he have the Tao body, but also an immortal grade divine power. There were strict requirements for such divine powers, not only in terms of comprehension, but also talent. Even Gongsun Shoyu could not guarantee that he would succeed in cultivating it. After 60 minutes passed, Yi Zan stopped, and the swirling power in the sky slowly dissipated. At this moment, he had completely mastered the essence of the boundless palm technique. Yi Zan's lips curved into a beautiful arc. Finally, after the Flora sword technique, he comprehended another immortal grade divine power. Although this palm technique did not have the terrifying power of the Flora sword technique, it had greater controlling and restraining abilities. Yi Zan slowly descended from the sky. His white clothes fluttered in the wind, and his every movement was elegant. Ha ha ha. Congratulations, junior brother Yi. You comprehended an immortal grade divine power and achieved a breakthrough in your cultivation. It is truly a blessing for the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. It seems that there is hope for the rise of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. Gongsun Shoyu quickly went up to congratulate Yi Zan with a smile. He had to admit that Yi Zan had indeed brought him countless surprises today. Senior brother Gongsun is too kind. I was just lucky just now, Yi Zan said lightly. He also noticed Gao Shun's ugly expression, which made him feel great. This feeling of showing off in front of so many people was really the best. Senior brother Gao, what's up with your expression? Are you feeling unwell? Yi Zan asked, despite knowing the answer. When Gao Shun heard this, his face turned even more livid. PFF'd. When Yuelin saw this, she stifled her laughter. She naturally knew that Yi Zan had said that on purpose. After all, Gao Shun had confidently stated that Yi Zan could not enter the state of epiphany earlier. However, he had now been blinded by reality. Furthermore, he had also comprehended an immortal grade divine power while doing so. 434 Karma. When the other chiefs saw this, they gloated as well. In the past, Gao Shun had been extremely arrogant just because he was the law enforcement elder and the only other mystic lord realm expert in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect aside from Gongsun Shoyu. Moreover, under Gao Shun's leadership, Hidden Sword Peak had, to some extent, suppressed all of the other peaks. Thus, they had no complaints about this situation. Having another mystic lord realm expert that could suppress Gao Shun's arrogance was naturally a good thing. Gao Shun was naturally able to detect the changes in everyone's expression. Although he was livid, he could only glare fiercely. HMPH. You've won. After Gao Shun dejectedly said this, and then turned around and left in a sorry state. He did not want to stay on Cloud Sky Peak for a second longer. The events that had taken place today were too embarrassing. Senior brother, don't rush. The road on my peak is quite slippery. Don't fall down. Whenever you miss me, remember to come over and play. When Gao Shun, who was heading out, heard this, he almost fell down. This guy was really too much. Everyone's expression twitched when they heard this. They did not expect Yi Zan to be so sarcastic. However, they were gloating inwardly. Who asked Gao Shun to be so arrogant all the time? This is what karma looked like. Liang Dahai was the most satisfied. After all, before Yi Zan, Liang Dahai was the one who was always in conflict with Gao Shun. Furthermore, he had been constantly losing to Gao Shun because his cultivation level was weaker. Liang Dahai still remembered Gao Shun's smug look every time that happened. Ha ha ha, junior brother Yi, good job. Liang Dahai laughed loudly and walked over to pat Yi Zan's shoulder, not hiding his joy at all. Liang Dahai's personality had always been straightforward. Yu Ellen also laughed. Junior brother Yi, you're really too much, but I like it very much. I reckon that when senior brother Gao returns to Hidden Sword Peak, he'll break a bunch of artifacts to vent his anger. He's always been a prideful person. Yi Zan smiled and did not say anything. Just then, Gongsun Shoyu walked over. Although he felt a little bad for Gao Shun, he did not say much. After all, it was Gao Shun who provoked Yi Zan first. Furthermore, the enmity between Cloud Sky Peak and Hidden Sword Peak had been going on for thousands of years. They were all used to it. Senior brother Gongsun. When the chiefs saw Gongsun Shoyu walking over, they quickly bowed respectfully and stopped the discussion. Now that the matter is over, all of you should leave. The Seven Peaks competition is about to begin, so everyone should be prepared. Yes, Sect Master, everyone said in unison and then left. Before he left, Gongsun Shoyu looked at Yi Zan meaningfully, his eyes full of satisfaction. Previously, he was a little worried about whether Cloud Sky Peak would be able to survive after Tian Zan left. Those worries had now vanished. Junior brother Yi, I'll be leaving first. Your Cloud Sky Peak should also prepare for the competition. Gongsun Shoyu patted Yi Zan's shoulder and then left. Soon, Cloud Sky Peak became quiet again. Only Yi Zan, his disciples, Yu Ellen, Li Hanyi and Hua Rufeng remained. Seeing that everyone had left, Yu Ellen revealed a reluctant expression. Junior brother Yi, I'll be going back as well. I'll see you on the day of the Seven Peaks competition. In the future, if senior sister is free, you can come by and visit, Yi Zan said with a smile. Yu Ellen sighed inwardly. Was this guy not going to ask her to stay? Hanyi, let's just leave. Yu Ellen looked at Yi Zan with a hint of disappointment, and then left with Li Hanyi. After the two of them left, Hua Rufeng was the only outsider left on Cloud Sky Peak. Martial nephew Hua, are you planning to stick around? Cloud Sky Peak doesn't have an extra portion of food lying around for you. Yi Zan looked at Hua Rufeng and thought to himself. Was this kid going to stay on Cloud Sky Peak? Hua Rufeng smiled gently. Martial Uncle Yi, I haven't thanked you for your guidance just now. If not for that, I wouldn't have broken through so easily. It's just a small matter. Yi Zan nodded indifferently. However, Yi Zan became even more satisfied with Hua Rufeng. This kid was quite a good person. At the very least, he had taken good care of Cloud Sky Peak all these years. Even when everyone looked down on him, Hua Rufeng still did not forget his manners and remained respectful to Yi Zan. All right, there's no need to trouble yourself over this matter. As the eldest senior disciple of our sect, there are a lot of things that require your attention. You should head back first, Yi Zan said, waving his hand. 435 roar. All right, then I'll take my leave first, Martial Uncle Yi. Hua Rufeng bowed to Yi Zan with respect. Yi Zan nodded. After Hua Rufeng's departure, Cloud Sky Peak returned to its usual peaceful state. However, Yi Zan knew very well that the news of his sudden breakthrough and cultivation of an immortal-grade divine power would definitely spread throughout the sect. Of course, he was not bothered by this. After everyone had left, Zhu Guiyu and Feng Xian walked over. Feng Xian looked in the direction of Hidden Sword Peak and said, Teacher, why do I feel that Martial Uncle Gao is targeting our Cloud Sky Peak? Are there grudges between our peaks? As a newcomer, Feng Xian was naturally unaware of this. Still, she could sense the malice in Gao Shun's actions and words. Hearing this, Yi Zan smiled. A long time ago, the relationship between the chiefs of Cloud Sky Peak and Hidden Sword Peak was not very good. However, in every generation, the Hidden Sword Peak would be crushed by our Cloud Sky Peak. That's why Gao Shun sees us as his number one enemy. When my teacher, Tian Zan, was still alive, he did not dare to go too far. However, Cloud Sky Peak declined after my teacher passed away, so for the past 100 years or so, he's been suppressing Cloud Sky Peak. Actually, his goal is very simple. He just wants to break the ugly record of Hidden Sword Peak being suppressed by Cloud Sky Peak and prove that Hidden Sword Peak is the strongest peak in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. When Feng Xian heard this, realization dawned on her. It seemed that this was something important to take note of, especially for the Seven Peaks competition. She felt slightly pressured. From what Yi Zan had said just now, the chiefs of Cloud Sky Peak had never lost to the chiefs of Hidden Sword Peak. Thus, she felt pressured to live up to the same expectations. Therefore, you two girls have to work hard. Even if you lose to others, you can't be defeated by the disciples of Hidden Sword Peak. Otherwise, Gao Shun will probably harp on it forever, Yi Zan said. Of course, these were just words he said to scare the two girls. With him and the awesome system, how could they lose to Hidden Sword Peak? Don't worry, teacher. We'll work hard in our cultivation and won't bring shame to Cloud Sky Peak. The two of them looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. They now had divine powers and divine bones. As long as they continued training and stabilizing their cultivation foundation, they would become stronger and more prepared for the competition. By Yi Zan's estimation, Feng Xian would most likely break through to the 9th stage of the Divine Mystic Realm before the Seven Peaks competition. Furthermore, this was just a conservative estimate. If she worked harder, she might even be able to reach the materialization realm. After all, the precious bone that this little girl had absorbed was left behind by a heaven realm descendant of an ancient beast. It contained vast amounts of spiritual energy. As for Zhu Yuyu, she had already stabilized her cultivation level at the 2nd level of the materialization realm. Now that she had a junior sister, she was working even harder at her cultivation, and was on the verge of breaking through to the 3rd level of the materialization realm. Hidden Sword Peak. The moment Gao Shun returned to his residence, he exploded with anger and smashed the white jade table in front of him with his fist. Detestable. The extremely hard white jade table was instantly turned into dust. When the disciples guarding the residence heard the commotion, they were so frightened that their bodies began to tremble. What had made Chief Gao Shun so angry? Right at this time, two of Gao Shun's disciples passed by and heard Gao Shun's roar. They jumped up in shock. Senior brother Chen, who provoked teacher? Why is he so angry? When Xiao Feng heard the roars coming from within, he shuddered. As far as I know, in the entire Great Wilderness Divine Sect, the only person who can make teacher so angry is Martial Uncle Yi Zan, who is the chief of Cloud Sky Peak, Chen Ruoxuan said. What? That useless chief from Cloud Sky Peak? Xiao Feng was stunned. Shish, don't say such things in the future. Chen Ruoxuan quickly glared at Xiao Feng. Martial Uncle Yi Zan is not trash. You've been cultivating in seclusion all this while, so you might not have heard of Martial Uncle Yi's feats in the outside world. Oh, Xiao Feng's interest was piqued, and he quickly asked about what had happened. After hearing the whole story, he was dumbfounded. Oh my god, is Martial Uncle Yi so powerful? No wonder teacher's face has been so ugly since he came back. Just as the two of them were in a heated discussion, a cold voice rang out. What are you guys doing? The two of them were shocked and looked up. Gao Tianyu's figure suddenly appeared in their field of vision. Senior brother, we were just discussing cultivation issues. Gao Tianyu did not say much, but his gaze then fell on Gao Shun, who was roaring in the residence. He had been in seclusion the entire time and was not clear about what had happened earlier. He was also very puzzled as to why his father was so angry. If that's the case, then hurry and go cultivate. Gao Tianyu looked at the two cultivators indifferently. Yes, the two of them quickly nodded and left. 436 / Father, Gao Tianyu greeted respectfully as soon as he entered the residence. When Gao Shun noticed that the person who had entered was his precious son, he immediately suppressed the anger in his heart. Tianyu, when did you exit your secluded cultivation? Just moments ago. Father, what happened? Why are you so angry? Gao Tianyu asked. Gao Shun sighed helplessly. In the entire Great Wilderness Divine Sect, who else would make me angry other than that guy on Cloud Sky Peak? Gao Tianyu squinted his eyes. Cloud Sky Peak again. Then, Gao Shun told Gao Tianyu everything that had happened earlier. When Gao Tianyu heard this, he became enraged and his gaze turned cold. This Yi Zan is really too much of a bully. Father, don't worry, I know what to do. Since Cloud Sky Peak dared to insult Hidden Sword Peak like this, I'll definitely take revenge during the Seven Peaks competition. It doesn't matter if Yi Zan himself is powerful. His disciples have only started cultivating recently. HMPH. They better pray that they don't meet me in the preliminaries, otherwise, Cloud Sky Peak will be annihilated. Gao Tianyu's eyes were filled with coldness. Although he was arrogant and loved women, he still respected his father. As such, he had to take revenge and regain the honor of Hidden Sword Peak. Seeing Gao Tianyu's confident look, Gao Shun's eyes lit up, and his sullen mood dissipated considerably. Very good. As expected of my son. Whether Hidden Sword Peak can hold its head high or not, it all depends on your performance in the 7 Peaks competition. HMPH. Yi Zan is too arrogant. If you lose to Cloud Sky Peak in the competition, I won't hear the end of it from him. Gao Shun's eyes were solemn as he said that, his expression filled with monstrous fury. Hearing this, Gao Tianyu revealed a confident smile. Father, don't worry, I have already reached the 4th level of the materialization realm, and am on the verge of breaking through to the 5th level. In the entire sect, no one is worth to be my opponent except for senior brother Hua. When Gao Shun heard that, he hurriedly examined Gao Tianyu's cultivation. Ha ha ha, you're indeed my son. It only took you 2 months to break through from the 1st level of the materialization realm to the 4th level. Very good. Yi Zan, just wait to be humbled at the competition. At the thought of Yi Zan's imminent defeat, Gao Shun could not stifle a smile. Tianyu, come with your father. In order to prevent any unforeseen circumstances during the competition, I will teach you a set of secret techniques and divine powers. Gao Shun then brought Gao Tianyu to the cultivation room. Elsewhere, the other chiefs were also hard at work pushing their disciples to cultivate for the competition, giving them pointers, guidance, as well as teaching them secret techniques and divine powers. The incident with Yi Zan had ignited a spark in every chief. Soon, there were only 3 days left before the competition. The atmosphere within the sect became increasingly intense. On Cloud Sky Peak, in the bamboo forest, Yi Zan was waiting for Zhu Guoyu, who had just arrived. Teacher, why did you call me here today? Zhu Guoyu was a little confused. Everyone else was frantically cultivating in preparation for the competition, yet Yi Zan had called her over so early in the morning. Did he have something to tell her? Yi Zan looked at the lake not far away, then casually broke off a bamboo stick and said, My precious disciple, I'm going to teach you a unique technique today. Watch carefully. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zan slowly raised the bamboo stick. His entire being seemed to have become one with the world. Zhu Guoyu's eyes brightened when she saw this. She stared at Yi Zan's every move, afraid that she would miss any detail. At this moment, the bamboo stick in Yi Zan's hand swept toward the lake in front of him, shining brightly. Moments later, the lake instantly surged with thousands of waves, as if the entire had been lashed with thousands of giant whips. When Zhu Guoyu saw this, she was shocked. Her teacher's sword strike was so terrifying. After Yi Zan was done, he slowly lowered the bamboo stick and said, This move is called the Heavenly Slash. It's a move that I created after studying the Cloud Sky Sword technique. It's extremely powerful, and if it's cultivated to the major mastery stage, can slash through anything and everything. Did you see it clearly just now? Zhu Guoyu nodded excitedly. She had photographic memory, so she naturally remembered all of Yi Zan's moves. She quickly replayed it in her mind as she comprehended the Heavenly Slash technique. Since it was derived from the Cloud Sky Sword technique, it was not difficult for Zhu Guoyu to comprehend it. Teacher, I've understood the basics. That's good. Yi Zan displayed a satisfied look. At this moment, a system notification suddenly rang out in Yi Zan's mind. Ding! As the host has taught the Heavenly Slash technique to his disciple, the host has received a randomized 289x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the Heaven-grade divine power, Hell Slash. Yi Zan smiled. Even if he had nothing on hand to give his disciple, he could derive a new divine power to teach his disciple and earn a reward. After that, insights regarding the Hell Slash technique filled his mind. With the aid of the Golden Lotus of the Great Tao in the system, he rapidly grasped the essence of the Hell Slash technique. Zhu Guoyu, on the other hand, was completely immersed in the power of the Heavenly Slash technique, and her eyes were full of excitement. After that, she personally tried it out. Although it lacked the terrifying power of Yi Zan's sword strike, even those who were one minor cultivation realm above her might not be able to withstand the blow. 437 Sacrifice. Teacher, this technique is awesome. Don't worry, teacher. I'll definitely use this technique to make you proud, Zhu Guoyu said with a serious face. After that, Zhu Guoyu planned to practice it a few more times, but was interrupted by Yi Zan. My precious disciple, Although the heavenly slash is powerful, it's not the strongest technique. Quote, comma, quote. What did teacher mean by this? Could it be that there was an even more powerful technique he would teach her? At the thought of this, Zhu Yueyu's eyes brightened as she looked at Yi Zan with anticipation. Seeing this, Yi Zan smiled and said, in this round of the Seven Peaks competition, you will represent Cloud Sky Peak. After all, your junior sister has only just joined us, and her cultivation is still lacking. The competition is just a training experience for her. As such, where Cloud Sky Peak ranks is all up to you. I've thought about it for a long time, and in order to increase your chances of winning, I've decided to teach you an even more powerful technique. Zhu Yueyu was elated when she heard this. Her teacher truly thought about and considered everything. Immediately, she patted her chest and said, don't worry, teacher. I won't let you down. As long as I'm here, Cloud Sky Peak will never lose to Hidden Sword Peak. Very good. Yi Zan was very satisfied with her answer. Then, he walked over to her and reached out to touch her forehead, transmitting a technique into her mind. When Zhu Yueyu sifted through the information in her mind, she was completely dumbfounded. Oh my god, it's actually a heaven-grade divine power, hell slash. Hiss. Zhu Yueyu sucked in a breath of cold air. Her eyes were filled with shock. This divine power was greater than anything she had ever cultivated before. Furthermore, the divine power would be enhanced by her 9 serenities of frost divine power. She would likely be able to challenge those who were 5 minor cultivation realms higher with this. Many thanks, teacher. Zhu Yueyu knelt down in front of Yi Zan to express her gratitude. Where would one find a teacher as good as Yi Zan in the mystic world? Even her parents would not be as kind and as generous. Yi Zan chuckled. The spiritual power in his body turned into a warm current that helped Zhu Yueyu up. Silly girl, although this divine power is powerful, it's also very difficult to cultivate a heaven-grade divine power. You have to cultivate well these few days. As long as you can cultivate it to the minor mastery stage, it will be enough for you to handle this 7 Peaks competition. Yes, teacher. Zhu Yueyu nodded respectfully. Yi Zan was about to leave, but then thought of something and turned around with a smile on his face. It just so happened that the cooldown period for spiritual power infusion had ended for Zhu Yueyu. It was time to reap more rewards. He walked over to her and said gently, my dear disciple, I've just thought about it carefully again. There are many experts in the 7 Peaks competition. Although you've already broken through to the 2nd level of the materialization realm, you haven't been cultivating for very long in comparison to the other disciples. As such, I've decided to perform spiritual power infusion on you again. This stunned her. What? Spiritual power infusion? Why? Zhu Yueyu felt guilty and worried. It was common knowledge that spiritual power infusion consumed the cultivation of the person who was performing it. If one was not careful, it might even affect one's own cultivation foundation. Zhu Yueyu was clear that with her current strength, she could withstand much more of Yi Zan's spiritual power than before. However, this would require her teacher to consume more of his cultivation. How could she damage her teacher's cultivation foundation to increase her own cultivation level? No, she could not do it. Seeing the resistance in Zhu Yueyu's eyes, Yi Zan felt warm in his heart. This girl's character was not bad. Even in the face of the temptation of a breakthrough, she was still being considerate of him. She was indeed a good disciple. However, if he did not perform spiritual power infusion, he would not obtain the system reward. As such, he quickly said, my precious disciple, don't worry. Spiritual power infusion might be harmful to others, but to me, it's just a trivial matter. The constitution that I have awakened is different from others. It can minimize the side effects caused by spiritual power infusion. Besides, isn't it just a small sacrifice? As long as you can become stronger and be able to protect yourself in this world, my tiny sacrifice will be worth it. When Zhu Yueyu heard this, she felt even more touched. Her tears were about to fall. Teacher. Zhu Yueyu looked at Yi Zan, her voice choked with sobs as she cried. Her pitiful appearance could make one's heart ache. Seeing this, Yi Zan smiled gently and comforted her. All right, you're already an adult, yet you still like to cry. If you want to repay my kindness, then win the 7 Peaks competition. Of course, I won't force you. Just do what you can. Yi Zan felt a little guilty. How could he bear to lie to such a kind and innocent girl? However, he had no choice. For the sake of his great plan, he could only thicken his skin and continue acting. 438 100,000 years worth of cultivation. My precious disciple, quickly sit down. Let's get started. Yizan gestured for Zhu Yuyu to sit down cross-legged, then placed his palm on her back. Moments later, his spiritual power surged out and turned into a warm current that entered Zhu Yuyu's body. Every inch of Zhu Yuyu's meridians and pores were filled with Yizan's spiritual power. Her face displayed a pained expression. Fortunately, Yizan was prepared and broke down his spiritual power into smaller, more digestible portions to help her absorb it faster. Also, since this was not her first time, she knew what to expect and could refine the spiritual power more smoothly. As time passed, and Zhu Yu's body trembled, her cultivation level rose rapidly. 3rd level of the materialization realm. 4th level of the materialization realm. 5th level of the materialization realm. 6th level of the materialization realm. 7th level of the materialization realm. 8th level of the materialization realm. Within just a short period of time she had reached the 8th level of the materialization realm. She was shocked. This would have normally taken her at least 3 years. Wait, it doesn't seem to be over yet. After Zhu Yuyu broke through to the 8th level of the materialization realm, there were still remnants of Yizan's spiritual power in her body. Without any hesitation, Zhu Yuyu activated the power of her profound ice divine bone and continued the absorption process. With Yizan's help, she perfectly absorbed all the spiritual power that Yizan had poured into her. Then, a cracking sound came from within Zhu Yuyu's body. A bright light erupted, and then she reached the 9th level of the materialization realm. She was now only a step away from the void realm. Of course, this was already Zhu Yu's current limit. After this, she would only need to comprehend the power of the laws to reach the void realm. It was a pity that Zhu Yuyu did not have the opportunity like Warufeng to enter a state of epiphany to comprehend the power of laws. However, she was already quite satisfied with the progress of her breakthrough. Seeing this, Yizan also stopped pouring in spiritual power. He could clearly sense that the meridians in Zhu Yuyu's body had already reached a point of saturation. If he continued to pour spiritual power into her, it was very likely that it would damage her cultivation foundation. Hold your breath and focus, do not move. You've just made several breakthroughs, so you have to stabilize your cultivation foundation. Yizan quickly instructed her, and then stood up and walked to the other side of the lake. Teacher. At this moment, Feng Xian also walked over. She was when she saw Zhu Yuyu sitting cross-legged by the lake. Senior sister, did something happen? Why did I sense a powerful aura just now? Xian, good timing. I have to go out and take care of some matters. Your senior sister is currently stabilizing her cultivation foundation, so you should protect her. After she awakens, you can continue with your own cultivation. I will probably be in secluded cultivation for a few days. Yes, teacher. Feng Xian did not ask too many questions. Yizan turned around and left. Feng Xian looked at her teacher's back as he left. Then, she went over to Zhu Yuyu's side. When Yizan returned to his room, the system's notification rang out. Ding! The host has infused 1,000 years worth of cultivation into his disciple and has received a randomized 100x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained a 100,000 years worth of cultivation. Hearing this, Yizan almost jumped up in excitement. This would likely help him to reach the advanced stage of the Mystic Lord realm, right? As for breaking through to the next major realm, Yizan did not even dare to think about it. His current cultivation foundation had yet to be solidified, so breaking through like that would be extremely dangerous. Moments later, a surging warm current appeared out of nowhere and frantically poured into Yizan's body. Let's go. Although he was already mentally prepared, Yizan still could not help but grit his teeth and cry out in pain. The density of spiritual power was simply unimaginable, and it filled all of Yizan's meridians and pores in an instant. This powerful spiritual power was expanding his meridians. He felt like he had entered a furnace. His body glowed red, and his face was full of pain, as if he was being bitten by countless ants. 439 Breakthrough. True Dragon's Strength, activate. Yizan roared as he activated the True Dragon's precious bone in his body to suppress the vast spiritual power. Then, with the help of the Golden Lotus of the Great Tao, Yizan slowly refined the spiritual power. 3 days passed quickly. Yizan's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and mysterious divine light flashed across the depths of his eyes. A surge of power suddenly swept out, revealing his advanced stage Mystic Lord realm cultivation. Furthermore, he was on the verge of reaching the Supreme Realm. If he solidified his cultivation foundation, he would be able to reach the peak of the Mystic Lord realm. At that point, he would be on par with Gongsun Shoyu. If he wanted to break through to the Supreme, he would have to produce a second Tao fruit in his divine spring. Of course, there were still some shortcuts to breaking through, such as immortal grade pills that surpassed heaven grade, or some extremely rare immortal grade heavenly treasures, and so on. Unfortunately, Yi Zan had none of these, so he had to break through the normal way. Still, he was very satisfied with his current cultivation progress. The amount of immortal spiritual power in his body had increased significantly as well. Breakthroughs were awesome. Yi Zan stretched lazily, then pushed the door open and walked out. Looking up at the peach forest, a magnificent palace had already begun to take shape. It seemed that the Su family's laborers were very efficient. Moreover, Su Chang had been living on Cloud Sky Peak all this time, personally supervising the construction of the palace. In addition, in order to leave a good impression on Yi Zan, the Su family had put in a lot of effort and resources this time. Yi Zan was very satisfied, and was impressed by Su Tiansheng's character and foresight. The Su family would be under his protection from now on. Had it been the Yi Zan of the past, not to mention protecting the Su family, even protecting his own Cloud Sky Peak would be extremely difficult. However, things were different now. He was already an advanced stage Mystic Lord Realm expert, and on paper, he was the second strongest expert in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. In fact, with the Flora Sword technique and the Hell/technique, Yi Zan could even defeat Gongsun Shoyu. At this moment, Zhu Guoyu and Feng Xian had also finished their cultivation session and walked over. Seeing that their teacher had ended his secluded cultivation, they hurriedly walked over. "You're done cultivating, teacher." Yi Zan nodded with a smile, then examined their auras. They were extremely calm. It seemed that these two little girls had been very diligent over the past 3 days. Incidentally, today was the day of the 7 Peaks competition. Cultivators from the various peaks had already made their way to the Great Wilderness Peak. Chief Yi Zan. Just as Yi Zan was about to bring them there as well, a handsome young man rushed over, panting. The young man was Su Chang. Cough cough. "Chief Yi Zan, are you planning to have the 2 fairies participate in the 7 Peaks competition?" Yi Zan raised his brows, but he quickly understood what Su Chang was getting at. It seemed that this guy was a little bored after staying on Cloud Sky Peak supervising construction work. However, it did make sense. After all, other than cultivating, there was nothing else to do here. Furthermore, this was his first time at the Great Wilderness Divine Sect, and he had never witnessed the once-in-a-century 7 Peaks competition. He naturally did not want to miss it. Therefore, when he noticed that they were about to leave, he came over eagerly. He wanted to observe the 7 Peaks competition. Actually, more importantly, he wanted to see the beautiful women of the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. After that, Su Chang greeted Zhu Guoyu and Feng Xian with a smile, before turning to Yi Zan with a somewhat pleading expression. "Father said that the 7 Peaks competition is a rare event that only happens once in 100 years. If Chief Yi Zan doesn't mind, could you take me to witness this glorious event?" "Chief Yi Zan, please rest assured. I won't cause any trouble and I won't bring any trouble to Cloud Sky Peak." Su Chang looked at Yi Zan nervously. Although the Su family and Cloud Sky Peak were on friendly terms, he was still a little afraid of Yi Zan. Especially in the past few days, after he vaguely sensed an extremely terrifying aura coming from Yi Zan's residence. Yi Zan laughed. Your performance these days has been quite good, especially in supervising the construction of the palace. I'm very satisfied. Come along then." Yi Zan was quite satisfied with Su Chang. Although he looked like a villain at the beginning, he managed to turn over a new leaf and worked hard. Furthermore, while Yi Zan was in secluded cultivation, Zhu Guoyu and Feng Xian were busy cultivating. It was basically Su Chang who managed the upkeep of the entire Cloud Sky Peak alone. Yi Zan naturally kept these things in mind. "Many thanks, Chief Yi Zan." When Su Chang heard this, he was ecstatic. He turned around subconsciously and was about to high-five Zhu Guoyu and Feng Xian in celebration. Of course, when Feng Xian saw this, she only smiled wryly. On the other hand, Zhu Guoyu looked at Su Chang indifferently. The latter was so frightened that he retracted his palm awkwardly. Cough, cough, the weather today is pretty good. Su Chang awkwardly changed the topic, but he was already used to their behavior. All right, it's almost time. Let's go. With a wave of his sleeve, a surge of energy suddenly swept out and enveloped them, as they turned into a streak of light that flew toward the Great Wilderness Peak. 440 Another Mystic Lord Realm Expert. The Great Wilderness Peaks meeting hall was very crowded and lively at this moment. Other than Yizan and his disciples, the cultivators from other peaks had all arrived at the competition venue. Of course, this did not only include the cultivators who were participating in the competition, but also the disciples who came just to watch. Take a guess. Which peak will become the champion of this year's 7 Peaks competition? In my opinion, since the senior brother Hua isn't participating, it will either go to Hidden Sword Peak or returning Cloud Peak. The probability of it being the former is probably higher though. I heard that senior brother Gao has already reached the materialization realm, and not a low level either. I don't think so. Although senior brother Xiao Baikan of returning Cloud Peak is low-key, he's also extremely strong, and no weaker than senior brother Gao Tianyu. In my opinion, he has a higher chance of winning the competition. Did you guys miss a peak? Don't you guys think that Cloud Sky Peak has great potential? Just then, someone mentioned Cloud Sky Peak. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone laughed at him. Ha ha ha, Chief Yizan's strength is indeed terrifying, but his disciples have only joined our sect for less than 3 months. How strong could they possibly be? That's right, in my opinion, those 2 little junior sisters are at most divine mystic realm cultivators. They don't have the strength to vie for the top position. Instead of them, I think senior sister Li Hanyi has a higher chance. Everyone was in a heated discussion over the competition. The place where they were gathered was the square in front of the meeting hall, in which there was an arena erected at the center, which was where the competition would take place. Right at this moment, a dazzling streak of light flew past. Countless people suddenly appeared. The cultivator standing at the very front was Chief Gao Shun, and behind him was his son, Gao Tianyu. Senior Gao Tianyu really has an extraordinary bearing. I didn't think much of it at first, but seeing today, I can tell that he really lives up to his reputation. Even in the crowd, Gao Tianyu was like a shining star, attracting everyone's attention. After all, he was a popular candidate for the top position, so he was naturally the focus of countless cultivators. Gao Tianyu's mouth curved into a smile when he noticed the adoring gazes around him. His face was full of confidence. He truly enjoyed being the center of attention. At this moment, another bright streak of light flashed across the sky. Ha ha ha, senior brother Gao Shun, I thought that I had already arrived very early. I didn't expect you to be faster. The tone of voice was bold and rough. It was Liang Dahai. Gao Shun looked at this fatty indifferently and did not say much. Suddenly, a beautiful figure descended from the sky. That graceful figure immediately attracted everyone's attention. Upon seeing Yuelin, Gao Shun and Liang Dahai narrowed their eyes. What? The aura of a mystic lord realm expert. The two of them looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Yuelin had actually broken through to the mystic lord realm. That meant that, after Yizan, she was the youngest mystic lord realm expert in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect. At that moment, Liang Dahai felt the pressure on him multiply. One had to know that in the Great Wilderness Divine Sect previously, he was the strongest cultivator other than Gongsun Shouyu and Gao Shun. Now, not only had Yizan reached the Mystic Lord realm, but even Yuelin, who was weaker than him, had also broken through. FCK. This was a little embarrassing. I can't believe that Chief Yuelin broke through to the Mystic Lord realm. This is truly unbelievable. The heavens have truly blessed our sect. We now have 4 Mystic Lord realm cultivators. Ha ha ha, it seems like the 7 Peaks competition is getting more and more interesting. I heard that Water Sky Peak and Hidden Sword Peak are not on good terms. I'm really looking forward to this competition. Why haven't I seen anyone from Cloud Sky Peak? Did they oversleep? The people around them looked around and did not see Yizan and his disciples, so they were puzzled. At this moment, a bright golden light shot up into the sky and fell from above the meeting hall. Then, a handsome man in white appeared, his clothes fluttering in the wind as he stood with his hands behind his back. It's Chief Yizan and those 2 little junior sisters. When the crowd saw this scene, they clamored. They had been hearing so much recently about Yizan's strength, but they had never seen him in person. Seeing him today shocked them. This was even truer for the female cultivators, who now were somewhat infatuated with Yizan. Gao Shun sensed Yizan's arrival and his gaze immediately turned cold. Oh my god, he's so handsome. Chief Yizan's aura seems to be stronger than the law enforcement elders. Could it be? As soon as that person finished speaking, everyone quickly looked up. Brother, you're right. Could it be that Chief Yizan's strength has already surpassed Chief Gao Shun's? At the thought of this, everyone felt shell-shocked. Yizan had only joined the Great Wilderness Divine Sect barely 100 years ago. Furthermore, 100 years ago, he was a puny mystic Meridian Realm cultivator, while Gao Shun was already a mystic Lord Realm expert back then. Not only that, many of Gao Shun's disciples were older than Yizan. Had Chief Yizan already reached the peak of the mystic Lord Realm? Already reached the peak of the mystic Lord Realm.